Jenna, that's dangerous. Please don't ever do that again. You could have gotten hurt, and I wouldn't have been there to help you. I had to, Jared. You don't have to do anything, Jenna. But I did. Jared, since you were in a coma, someone had to step up and be alpha, and that person was me. He stayed quiet and then opened his mouth to say something, but decided against it and closed it. Why? He asked with furrowed eyebrows. Why what? Why did you become alpha? Out of everyone, why did you step up and volunteer? He looked like he was trying to understand me. I didn't want anyone ruining this pack, and it should be me next as alpha, so I took hold of the title, and I was actually supposed to start training today, but I ran into Carolyn and them. This happened. I waved my hand to outside. Oh, and when you said that you came to visit me, did you? Yes, I spoke sincerely. I came to visit you. I actually fell asleep with you last night, and I had to be carried to my room. He smiled at me, and I returned it. Jenna, can we be brother and sister like we were when we were younger? Because I'll be honest, that when you came back and didn't want to be my sister, I felt guilty and depressed. I felt guilty that I knew that you wouldn't give me a second chance because of what I did. I also felt depressed that my sister didn't want me to be in her life and that I had lost you like Mom and Dad, he gulped. I wrapped my arms around him. I missed you, Jared, and I do want you in my life. So brother and sis? He asked with hope in his eyes. I nodded my head and flashed him a grin. He grinned from ear to ear and hugged me. Can't breathe, I gasped out. He let go and looked scared that he hurt me for a minute, but then relaxed once I laughed at his expression. I stood up to go when he asked me something I wasn't expecting for him to ask so soon. How come you're stronger and faster than other wolves and you never shift in front of others? Jared, I don't want to be mean, but I can't tell you that just yet. One day, I will. And when I do, that'll be the day that I'll be wanted. I whispered the part about me being wanted really low so that he couldn't hear. He nodded his head and stood up. Well, I have to go catch up on all the pack work. See you later, sis. He hugged me and kissed my forehead before departing. I sighed in relief. One down and one more to go. Time to find Luke. Oh boy, will this be hard. If I were Luke and I had just gotten upset, where would I go? I have no idea. Crystal, talk to his wolf and get him to tell us where he is. Ugh! Is this the only reason why you keep me around? Just for help? She asks. No. Fine, then you look for him. No, I'm sorry, okay? I was just joking around. I really need your help to find him. Okay. As she tried to figure out where he is, I looked around my old pack house and found the room I used to live in before I ran away. I hesitantly grabbed the knob and twisted it. Pushing the door open, I peeked inside. My eyes widened and my jaw fell. Everything was exactly the same way it was. Not a single item was messed with. All the stuff I had spilled from my backpack that day was there. Only difference now was that I was back and I had changed. What really surprised me is that Luke was laying across my bed and he was buried deep beneath the covers. Was he awake? I walked over to him and sat on the edge of the bed. Luke? I asked tentatively. Movement was stirred and he lifted his head up and laid it on the pillow. He blankly stared at the white ceiling. After you left, I would come in here for days and sometimes I would fall asleep here just awaiting for you, he quietly spoke. There was absolutely no emotion behind his voice. I was utterly confused as to why he was talking about my departure. I actually thought that maybe if I came to your room every day, that one day you would appear and forgive me. After a couple of months of this, Jared grew frustrated at me. He yelled at me saying that you were gone, that we screwed it up, and that because of us, you would never return. He would be the lonely brother, and I would be a depressed man without his mate. It was a slap of reality for me. I quit hanging around your room, knowing that I was foolish and tried to recover. That's where the sleeping around came in. All the pack work and hunters was putting too much stress on me, so O decided to sleep around with random girls to relieve it. It didn't work. He took a deep breath and continued. Every time I touched them, every time I felt them, I would picture you in my mind with that same look of sadness and heartbroken. I couldn't take it. I felt disgusted of myself. That was when I was sleeping and the pain came. I had no clue what it was. I knew perfectly what he was talking about. The pain got to the point where I called your brother Jared and asked him to come over for help to go to the pack doctor. When I got there and they assessed me and told me why I was feeling great pain, I couldn't believe it. It felt like my heart had just exploded from guilt and sadness. The doctor had said that you had just had sex with someone else, and since you lost your virginity, it would double the pain. I was heartbroken. The guilt suffocated me. The only good thing that came out of it was knowing that wherever you were alive. Jared tried to hide it, but I know he was relieved that you were alive. Why? Why, Jenna? I know you hated me and that you were heartbroken and that I cheated on you, but why would you do it? Was it revenge? I turned away from him and swallowed a lodge in my throat. The bed protested as I felt Luke get up from the position of where he was laying. 2 fingers tilted my face so that I was facing him. I mentally cringed when I saw his glassy black eyes and streaks of tears down his face. Today, when you said that it was a family problem and that I should leave, it felt like a stab to the heart. It hurt me to know that you don't see me as a part of the family. Do you hate me so much that you can't trust or rely on me? I felt a piece of my heart break as another tear slipped from his eye. He made no move to wipe it away. Instead, he stares at me for what I assume an answer. Do you want me to be sincere and answer your questions? I asked him with a look that read, "This isn't going to be pretty." He nodded his head and I removed his fingers from my face. He grimaced at this but didn't protest. I scooted farther up the bed and sat Indian style. What are your questions? And please note that I'm going to be truthfully honest and it might hurt you, I say with a grimace. He nods his head hesitantly. Why and who did you lose your virginity to? He said with a bit of anger in his tone. I sucked in a sharp breath. I don't think I wanted to tell him. You promise you won't go and beat him up? A war was clearly going on between him and his wolf, but in the end he agreed. I was going through heat. This was a year after I ran away. I had lost all of weight, but I hadn't grown muscle yet. I had a small and slender frame is another way to put it. Don't get mad, but during that time I had developed feelings over someone. I stopped when I heard Luke growl quietly. Sorry, he murmured. I shook my head and continued. As I was saying, I had developed feelings over Blake and... Oops, I didn't mean to say his name. Luke growled angrily, and his eyes were starting to change. Do something stupid, Crystal yelled in my mind. I placed a hand on his shoulder and massaged it. Really? Was that the best I could come up with? Luke, you promised, I reminded him. He began to calm down, and I pulled my hand away from him. Okay, so where was I at? Oh yeah, Blake. Well, we liked each other, I say really fast. I glanced at Luke and he had a blank look. Great, now he's going to think I'm some sort of slut. Yes. He blew air from his mouth. Okay. I stared at him in disbelief. This should be the part where he gets pissed off and runs off to find Blake and beat the shit out of him. Why aren't you mad? I am. Very. But I'm trying my best to stay under control from killing someone you really care about. Without my consent, a small smile forms on my lips. Thank you. Yeah. Now answer why you did it. I did it partially for revenge and because I liked him at the time, and I sure as hell wasn't going to make it through that heat, so I trusted Blake to relieve me. I spoke with truth. Okay, do you trust me, Jenna? He blurted out. I was taken aback from his answer, but nonetheless I answered him. Yes. It was his turn to be taken aback. Why? I did so many bad things to you. I know you did many things that should have made me reject you, but I have this feeling of trust for you. I know you are trying to better yourself, so I trust you. He looked like a kid on Christmas morning as his face broke out in a smile. Before I knew it, he crushed me against him in a hug. I smiled against him and returned the hug. I knew then that no matter what I did to try to avoid him, I would always be led back to him. He has changed me, and I have changed him. We're mates, and if the moon goddess paired us up, was because she had a reason to. Now that I'm sitting here hugging Luke and he hugs me back, I know for sure that I need him in my life and he needs me. Kiss him, Crystal whispers. And then and there I decide to quit with my stubborn-ass self and press my lips against his, because I know that if I don't do it, then I will never move up from where I am, and all I want to do is have a nice mate with a nice family. Our lips move in synchronization, and I feel myself be swallowed in love and care. He places me on his lap, and I wrap my arms around his neck as he places one of his hands on my waist while the other is on the side of my face. Fireworks burst in my stomach. Tingles of pleasure shot through my lips, and I couldn't find myself pulling away from him. I had to, though, if I wanted to breathe. Not even after I pulled away did that stop Luke. He trailed kisses down my neck, and once he reached where my neck and collarbone met, he began to suck. I let out a soft moan and pulled on the ends of his hair. I froze once I felt his fangs scraping against my skin. Was I ready for this? Did I want to be marked? All my questions and doubt went down the drain when I heard him beg. "Please let me mark you, Jenna." I nodded my head, and he wasted no time to bury his fangs deep down on my neck, officially marking me as his. "Jenna?" A voice that brought butterflies in my stomach sounded. "What?" I groaned and flipped over, but only to whine in pain as my neck throbbed. "Careful. The mark is going to be hurting for a couple more hours," Luke smugly spoke. I shot up in bed, and my eyes were now wide awake. The mark. I ran off the bed and dashed to the bathroom. To make sure Luke wouldn't come in after me, I locked it and turned to face the mirror. A gasp escaped my mouth as I spotted the mark right where my collarbone was. So I'm just going to say that the mark isn't a tattoo of a wolf or of the moon. That's not reality. Reality is that there were 2 punched holes on my neck that are throbbing red. I lifted up my right hand and cautiously poked it. Hissing in pain, I retreated the hand. "Jenna, babe, are you all right?" Luke knocked softly on the door. I don't know whether or not to feel mad that he called me babe or happy. I sighed in frustration. What am I going to tell the guys? To let Luke mark me after all he did since I got here. I rinsed away the remainder of dry blood and brushed the bird nest of my hair. Once I looked decent, I exited the bathroom and looked around for Luke. He was sitting on the edge of the bed with slouched shoulders, facing away from me. "You regret letting me mark you, right?" he said with sadness. Never once did he turn to face me. I went to sit between the space of his legs, and he just turned his head from me. I cupped both sides of his face and forced him to look at me. His eyes held pain and sorrow, which made my wolf whimper knowing it was our fault. "Luke, I'm just frustrated, that's it. I don't know what I'm going to say to Jared and the others." I was cut off by him. Our faces were an inch away, and I could feel his hot breath fanning across my face. "I know. Luke, I don't regret letting you mark me. If anything, I'm happy to finally be loved," I whisper. We both close our eyes and start to lean in close to seal our lips in a kiss when my door slams open. I pushed Luke away and I jumped back. My eyes widened as I saw Blake and the others staring at me with looks that read, "Explain now." Glancing from Luke to the guys, I sighed in defeat. "Come in, guys. We need to talk." They entered with no word and sat around my room except my bed. "What the fuck, Jenna? We thought you hated him." I cast my eyes down from their hard gazes. What had shocked me was that Randy was the one who snapped. "I'm sorry," I said with a tear sliding down my face. Luke growled at them and wrapped an arm around me. "What did you do, Jen?" Blake asked calmly. "I can't do it anymore, guys. He's my mate, and sooner or later we're going to end up together. He is the only person who I can ever love as a mate, and you guys know it. I know I look like a slut, but I promise you that we haven't done anything bad. Please let me be with him," I begged. I had unshed tears on the edges of my eyes. Trey was the first one to break the silence. "Of course I forgive you, Jen. I don't know how it would feel like to have a mate, but when I have her, you'll be the first one to know." And with that, he came up to me and hugged me as I shed a single tear from my right eye. He kissed my cheek and went to stand right beside me. I stared pleadingly at the rest and smiles when Zach let out a defeated sigh. "Okay, I'll let you and lover boy be together, but only if you promise to wait on having children, because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be pregnant while a war is about to break out," he said with a joking tone. He walked over to me and wrapped me up in a nice warm hug. Once he let go, he kissed my temple and stood by Trey. "Damn it. Jenna, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at Luke for getting to you. I don't want you getting hurt." My heart melted. "I want you to be happy, but by just taking you away from him, I see that you are the opposite of it." So fine, I'll let you be with him, but if he messes you up or makes you cry, I'll kill him. Blake smiled, but I could tell that he was being serious. I nodded my head, and he hugged me tightly, and I wrapped my arms around his neck. Thank you, I whispered extremely low. Sure thing, Jen, and he kisses my forehead and went to stand by Zach. We all stood there now waiting for Randy to cave in. I smiled softly at him, but he returned it with an icy glare. No, I don't want you with him. He is not good for you, Jenna. Don't ask me again, because I'll just say no, and if you want to be with him, then that's your life. But if you get hurt, I won't be there. And if you think that I'll still be there for you, then you're wrong, because the moment you get with him, I'm leaving. My smile fell, and I could feel myself ready to cry. But he didn't wait. He stomped out the room, slamming the door closed. Don't worry, Jen. He can never stay mad at you. Trey rubbed soothing circles on my back, but quit once Luke shot him a glare. I didn't see him, but I know he did it. I just continued to stare at the wooden door Randy had left from. Without another second to lose, I opened that door and ran down the hallway looking for him. The guys and Luke yelled my name, but I ignored them and kept running trying to find Randy before he does something stupid. I followed his scent outside, and if I had been a bit late, then I wouldn't have seen a glimpse of his white wolf as he shifted and dashed into the woods. I panicked and sped up my pace to the woods. Is he stupid? There are hunters prowling there, and he can get hurt. As I was about to follow after him on foot, I heard a whimper of pain. After that, I'm pretty sure you know what I did. I shifted into my crystal white wolf, and with all of my strength, ran in the direction I heard him. Within seconds, I entered a clearing where time seemed to freeze for me. Around 10 hunters were surrounding Randy, as laid in a pool of blood, yet continued to fight. I saw the limp as he growled at them. His side was stained in blood, and I could tell that if he didn't see a pack doctor soon, he was going to lose consciousness. I growled menacingly, and all the heads of the hunters turned to face me. The leader of the group had a large cynical smirk plastered on his face. Oops. He smiled, obviously not apologizing. I didn't understand what he... My thoughts were interrupted when the man threw something that looked like a sharp metal, and it sunk into Randy's side. He fell to the ground with a whine of pain and then stilled. It was then I growled a large growl that made me shock at how furious I was. Next thing I know, my wolf takes control. My eyes had turned fiery red and I stalked towards them. Every single one of them showed fear except one, the leader. Fascinating. I never knew you existed. We all thought you were a myth. I guess you're not. One moment he's there, and the next he is running. I was about to chase after him when all 10 hunters start to shoot me with arrows. I pounced on one of them and immediately sliced his throat. I moved on to the next one and repeated the same thing. Right when I was on my last one, Luke and the guys burst into the clearing. The guys saw me and were about to call me when I killed the man and shifted back to human. I ran to Randy and lifted his wolf head up. Randy, I whispered with a shaky voice. Wake up, please, I said with tears in my eyes. Luke had just stared at me and I could tell from his penetrating gaze. The guys were standing around Randy with looks of sorrow. No, 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 I repeated over and over. Wake up, Randy, please. You can't go. Randy, I sobbed. Jenna, we have to get him to the pack doctor. Blake spoke lowly. I got up and saw how I had gotten covered in blood from both the hunters and him. I couldn't take it anymore. The blood, the man, the myth, the hunters. It was all too much for me. Next thing you know, I faint into darkness. Shush, I think she's waking up, someone scolded. I opened my eyes, but only to shut them again due to the bright lights. After a minute of adjusting my eyes, I opened them again. What happened? I asked groggily. Jenna, why didn't you tell us you were marked? Blake asked with hurt on his face. I turned my attention to the floor. It didn't come up. I'm sorry for not telling you. It was then I remembered about Randy. Where is Randy? Is he all right? Please tell me he isn't dead. I cried. Jenna, calm down. Trey placed both of his hands on either of my shoulders. I sat back down, but tears continued to pour down from my eyes. I didn't bother to even wipe them away, knowing that it wouldn't help at all. We have a lot to talk, Jenna. There is good news and bad news for Randy and your mark. We are going over the mark first, okay? Blake asked slowly. Unable to say anything, I simply nodded my head. Okay, he sighed. Luke, he called. I turned to face the door where Luke walked in with his hands stuffed down his pockets. We're going to need your help in case she rages or tries to look for Randy. Zach explains, to whom I assume Luke. Okay. Luke moves so he can sit beside me, and I was about to move when he picked me up and placed me on his lap. I shoot a glance at the guys and they just stare back indifferent. The good news is that you are now a mated wolf. I stared at Blake blankly. The bad news is you have to join Luke's pack now. You are the Luna now, and you have responsibilities over that. No more pranks, no more sleepovers, no more messing around with the guys in the mornings, no more hunting or killing. I was Luna now. Tears of sadness fell from my eyes. But what about my wolf? Jenna, while you fainted, we researched what you were, and it turns out that you are the special. You're not only stronger, faster, and better than any other wolf, but you are also the moon goddess's daughter. Physically, your mom is dead, but logically, the moon goddess is your mom. She took more time on creating you. You're supposed to be a myth based on hunters. According to the myth, you are undefeatable and you always win. I felt shocked, proud, and scared most of all. What if I am wanted by hunters now? What if I'm a bad daughter? What if? Jenna, breathe, Luke spoke comfortingly. I let out a breathe I didn't know I had been holding. Now Randy, Trey started. I look at the guys and they looked back at me with no emotion. The good news is that Randy is alive, Blake spoke. I felt happy tears spilling down my face in joy. When can I see him? I ask as I start to remove myself from Luke's lap. He stops me and I shoot him a glare. I looks at the others and they stare at me with sadness. Jenna, that's the bad news. You can't see him. None of us can. Not yet. Jenna, he has lost his memory and he most likely doesn't remember us. I zoned out. First they tell me that I am the future Luna and I have to join Luke's pack. Next they tell me I am the moon goddess's daughter. And finally they say that Randy might have no memory of us. Why am I the one who keeps suffering so much? What have I done to deserve this? Most of all, why me? What? I yell, he can't forget about us. He is Randy. Why? Why him? Couldn't it have been me? I scream through my tears. I don't care if I have to leave my pack or that I am the moon goddess's daughter. Okay, maybe I do. But why did something bad have to happen to Randy? He never did anything wrong. Yes, he might have been rude and cold, but if you knew him well enough, you know that he has gone through a lot and that he doesn't deserve anything that is happening to him. Jenna, don't speak like that, Blake scolded me. His eyes had hardened and high jaw was clenched in anger. But how, when, why? I sobbed incoherent words. He's alive, Jenna, and that's what matters. Please don't cry. You know how much it hurts me. Luke spoke up for the first time since Blake released the news. I have to see him. Maybe if he sees us, then we can trigger something in his mind and he'll remember. Staying away from him won't help, and you guys know that. Just please let me see him, I begged. I don't know, Jenna. What if he tries to attack you? Zach asks with a worried expression. He won't. I know that for sure, I state confidently. Please, I pleaded. Fine, Blake sighed. Really? I asked with hope. Yes. No. Blake had said yes, while Luke had said no at the same time. Why? I turned around and faced Luke. I'm not risking your safety just so you can get your friend his memory back, he growled lowly. Luke, come on, please. Randy may not know me, but I know him better than anyone else, and I know that he would never hurt me, I tried to reason. Oh, yeah. And what about when he punched you in your female baby maker? Zach asked. Zach? Trey, Blake, and I yelled at him. Sorry, he muttered. Luke? Luke had gotten quiet, but I could see his eyes changing colors. Luke, look! Flying food! I pointed as I gasped. Everyone turned to face the wall I had pointed at, and I took advantage and hopped off Luke's lap and made a run for wherever Randy is. Idiot. We don't know where he is. How will we find him? Crystal kept rambling on and on about my stupidity, so I blocked her out. I took a whiff of the air and dashed in the direction Randy was. As I ran farther from the room, I couldn't help but laugh when Zach asked where the food was, and Trey slapped him in the back of the head. Jenna, come back, young lady. I heard a yell behind me. Leave me alone, Zach. I'm going to see Randy whether anyone likes it or not, I yell back. No, I know where he is. Hold up. I glanced behind me and saw him leaning on his knees trying to catch his breath. Oh, my God. You run too fast. I laughed at him, and he quickly recovered and started to head down a hallway. Jenna! I heard Blake and Luke call from not that far behind us. Hurry up! I yell at Zach. Not seeing any improvement in his running, I ask him where Randy is, and he tells me that he is right up ahead and on the second door to the left. Thanks, I say before picking up my pace and scurrying down the hallway. As I turn the corner, I slide and hit the wall. Ow, I whine and rub my sore nose. Come on, you're almost there, Crystal urged me. I mentally rolled my eyes at her and stop outside the door Randy is in. I take a deep breath, and as I reach to grab the handle, I hear a voice right beside me. No, Jenna, Luke commanded. Next to him was Blake with an annoyed face and a red-faced Zach out of breath. Go, Blake mind-linked me, and I do. I shoot Luke a determined face and open the door and close it quickly behind me, leaving no time for Luke to barge in. I lock the door and turn to face the room. There in the center of the room is a nicely dressed Randy with a darkened expression. Who the fuck are you? And we are back to square one when we first met, the rude and cold Randy. Hi, my name is Jenna, and you were in an accident that caused you to lose your memory. Why do people keep saying that? I'm pretty sure I would remember if I was attacked or something, he harshly spoke. Okay, take a deep breath, Jenna. How far do you remember? I asked softly. What's it to you? He spat. Randy, please cooperate here. I'm your best friend, I plead. You're not my best friend? He sounded unsure. Randy, do you know who I am? Do you remember me at all? I asked with hope. No, I don't know who the fuck you are or why you keep talking to me, he spoke smoothly. Ouch. Randy, I'm going to explain to you who I am and ask you questions, okay? Whatever, he huffed. I smiled faintly. At least he isn't yelling or anything. I am Jenna Summers, beta of the Whitestone Pack, he cut me off. No, you aren't. That's me, he said with confusion. No, you were. You gave the title to me. Why would I give a pathetic girl my title as beta? That's stupid. I held back by tears. You thought I had deserve it, so you gave it to me. My voice broke at the end. Whatever, he huffed again. As I was saying, I breathed deeply, I'm Jenna Summers, and 2 years ago, I explained to him who I am and how we met. I even included the part how overprotective he is over me and how he hated me in the beginning. In the end, he had a puzzled expression. So I helped you? He spoke slowly. Yup. Look, I have pics in my phone. I went to the gallery on my phone and started to show him pictures that I had taken over the years. Ones where I was still fat and others when I was skinny. I showed him a picture of me when I had first arrived, and he was smiling in the camera, and the others were laughing around. I was still fat, but no one cared. That's you? He pointed at a fatter version of me. Yeah, but thanks to you, I lost weight and became strong. You were and still are my personal trainer. I scrolled it to another picture where Trey had taken a picture during my training. I was skinnier, and I was hand-to-hand combating Randy, who had a look of concentration. At this, Randy smiled slightly. Who is that? He looks familiar. Randy pointed at Trey, who was in the background mocking our moves. I laughed lightly. That's Trey. He's the youngest of us all. It's you, me, Trey, and Zach. I explained to him. I went ahead and scrolled to another picture which was taken a couple of days before we left to come here. In the background were our cars, and everyone was standing in front of their cars posing. I had made a lady take the pics since I was too busy posing. Can you identify them for me? Randy asked again. Sure, I smiled. That's Blake, the alpha. I pointed at Blake, who was in the most left side, and he was posing in a crouch and staring seriously. He had wanted to look serious and cool, I chuckled. That's Zach, just a member and prankster. I pointed at Zach, who was laying on his car trying to be like a female model. He wanted to look sexy. This is Trey. He is the youngest and is kind. I pointed at Trey, who was just standing there looking lost. He had forgotten to pose, I laughed out loud. Randy chuckled lowly. This is me. I pointed at myself where I was posing stupidly with my hands above my head and my tongue sticking out in a joking manner. Yup, I look stupid. No, you don't. You look funny and you are being yourself, Randy argued. Yeah. That's you, I pointed at Randy, who was in the farthest right. He had posed in a casual arms crossed and with a face that you could tell he was trying to not laugh. His eyes were looking in my direction and Zach's. You were trying so hard to not laugh. You wanted to look dark and mysterious. I look happy, he whispered. Yeah, you won't show your true feelings around us. When you are with strangers, you act cold and rude, but for some reason, me and you are closer than anyone else. Do you know what happened to you or why you got in an accident? I asked quietly. No, they haven't told me. It was because of me. It's my fault you almost died, I said with tears pouring out my eyes. I should have been the one who got hit, not you, I cried. I could tell I had made him uncomfortable since he shifted from foot to foot and reached out a hand to rub my back awkwardly. It's all right, he said. No, it's not. You had gotten mad at me, and you ran off. I'm not allowed to shift, but the moment I heard you whimper in pain, I didn't care. I shifted and ran after you. When I got there, you were bleeding, and I killed the hunters who were about to finish you off. But one of them, the one who threw a medal at you, escaped, and I was too shocked to chase him. I could have killed him, but I let him get away. Not to mention how I fainted. I spoke angrily at myself. It is my fault, and I can never forgive myself. Jenna? Randy tentatively asked. What? I looked up at him. I didn't forget anything. I remember you and the guys. I just pretended to not so I could see your reaction. You were pranked. To say I was furious was an understatement. At that moment, the guys entered the room with Luke in tow, and they all had sheepish smiles and Luke was frowning. You were in it? I yelled. Yeah, Blake muttered as he scratched the back of his neck. You better run, boys, because if I catch you, you're going to pay, I growled. Rage. That's how I felt at the moment. Undeniable rage and fury. I can't wrap what they did around me. Why would they do that? Did they honestly think I would laugh? That must have been the most cruelest of all jokes I have ever fallen for. Without looking for them, I dash out the room and head to the backyard. I shifted and ran straight into the woods. I saved him, and this is how he repays me? By lying, he lost his memory? That's the most stupidest. I can't even think straight because of the anger I feel. My wolf was itching to take control, but I reminded her that if I did, she wouldn't notice if we got attacked. Let me take over, she growled angrily. No, Crystal. What if we get attacked? Not to be rude, but you're not going to notice shit if I let you take over, so no, I responded and closed off the conversation. As I sped through the woods, I could feel my surroundings becoming quieter. Too quiet. I slowed down my pace and glanced around me. Trees stood tall and the grass reached up to my sides. I hadn't realized how far away I ran. I was at least an hour away by foot from the pack house. By wolf, it would take 30 minutes, but for me, I only took 15. I shift back to human form and walk over to a tree. Sighing loudly, I shift back and laid down beside the tree and closed my eyes. I was at peace until I heard a branch snap. Wake up, Crystal yelled. I'm up, I screamed. My eyes flew open and I jumped up, immediately standing in a fighting stance. Well, what do we have here? If it isn't Jenna Summers, aka the daughter of the moon goddess. I would have thought that maybe because of what I did to Randy, that maybe you wolves would stay clear of the woods for a while, but I guess I was wrong. Boy, are you stupid. I don't believe you're faster, stronger, or better than any other wolf. And you know why, Jenna? I stood glaring at him. Because you are all the same. Pathetic, weak dogs, he spat. I let out a growl and lunged at him. He saw it coming, I guess, since he quickly ducked out of the way. Do you really take me that stupid? He asked as he placed a hand over his heart in mockery. Shut up, I growl and lunge at him. He hadn't expected that one. We both flew back with me on top of him. I straddled his hips down, and my hands were both placed so that I was holding down his wrists. I see you like it kinky. Too bad you're a wolf, he winked. I even felt his excitement down below, and I shot him a look of disbelief. Oh, don't be so surprised, I'm a man, you know. You call me pathetic and worthless. Well, look at you. If you haven't noticed, you are being currently held down by a girl. I mock. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you are talking about. If only you knew what was in store for you, he muttered the last part. I wasn't sure whether or not I was supposed to hear that. What do you want from me? I asked with a slight growl. You, he said, and before I knew it, something slammed against my head, sending me flying a couple of feet. My vision blurred, and all the blood rushed to my head. I tried to stand up, but my vision had spots, and it was dizzy. I blinked repeatedly, trying to clear up my vision. After a few seconds, I was able to spot the man who was now standing up and had a sly smirk. "Look behind you." He smiled evilly, and within a second I felt yet another pain throughout my head. I was sure this time I wasn't going to stay awake. Last thing I heard before fully losing consciousness was a different voice, a more gruff and manlier voice. "Night, bitch!" And I felt another pain on the back of my head and a trail of warmth cascading down my forehead. All I could think now was, who is that man? And why hadn't Crystal said anything since I saw them? Darkness is all I saw. Pure and utter blackness was enveloped around me. It was overwhelming not knowing what the fuck was going on and what was going to happen with me. Was I dead? Was Luke with me? What will? And that's where I woke up. I started to choke on water and I could hear laughs around me. "Wake up, bitch!" A man yelled as he threw another bucket of ice-cold water at me. I coughed loudly once again and tried to open my eyes through my heavy lids to see what was going on. I was somewhere in a dark basement, surrounded by mostly dudes with some type of weapon hanging from their pants. A few beer bottles were laid around, and I knew that some of these people were drunk. Very few girls were here, and they looked sympathetically at me. I lifted myself up and noticed that I was tied down to a chair. Panic set in, and I struggled to get free, but the wrists were bathed in a thick coating of wolfsbane, and it burned like hell when I touched it. "Whore," someone yelled, and I turned angrily to face a middle-aged man who had a beer bottle hanging loosely from his right hand. He threw it at me, and I dodged it and shot him a glare. Now, no fighting, Roger. This is a beauty, and we don't want to ruin her just yet," someone spoke up, and I felt a hand on my face. Rage burned through me, and I started to fully awake now. I let out a growl so loud that it had a few people holding on to each other. "You will not disrespect me like that. Who the fuck do you think you are?" I shook with rage, and my eyes were guaranteed to be a blazing, fiery red. "Oh shit, look at her eyes. It really is her," a man yelled in shock and surprise. I whipped my head to the man who had touched me. "Touch me again, and I will kill you," I snarled. "Like this." He smirked and ran a hand down my neck to my cleavage. "Oh, hell no." "Break the chains," Crystal ordered. I obliged. I growled and tugged onto the chains, and ignoring the burning sensation, I broke free. I jumped in front of the man who had touched me. "I warned you," I spat, and before he could react, I ripped his head off and flung it to the man who had spilled the water at me. My teeth were stained with blood, and I spat it out in disgust. "Who's next?" I growled menacingly, and the men pulled back the women, but I could tell that they looked annoyed and strangely not afraid of me. Maybe they knew I wouldn't hurt them, and although many would, I wouldn't. The men pulled out guns and bows with loaded arrows, and they pointed it directly at me. I immediately shifted and stood in front of them. Few were shaking in fear. Just as one was about to shoot, a man's voice rang in the air. "Stop!" The voice sounded familiar, and that's when I realized that this was the man who had said, "Night, bitch." I faced the man and gasped when I saw him. He looked around my age. His hair was swept to the side, and it had a color that reminded me of the sandy beach. His eyes were strikingly blue with a tint of green around the edges. He was well-built and visibly strong. For some reason, though, I felt like I knew him for my whole life. "Who is he?" I asked Crystal. "He is your guardian," she spoke softly. "But if he is supposed to protect me, then why did he knock me out?" No response. Was he a werewolf? And if he was, then why was he here? "Andrew, my boy, I hope you brought the stuff." A much older man walked over to him, and I felt overprotective of him. The man looked like an older version of him. He must be his father, but I could tell that he was certainly not a wolf, but his son smelled like one. Then, "Yes, Dad." I saw as the man gave his dad a brown bag, and the man smiled cynically, showing off his white teeth. "Master!" a woman yelled, and she ran up to him and handed a letter to him. He looked annoyed, and he snatched the letter from her before turning to his son. "Look at her. I have finally found her." The old man grinned smugly, and I saw the young man turn and lift up his eyes so that we saw eye to eye. It hit me like full force. His eyes were full of pain and misery. My eyes shone with anger and confusion. It was then I realized how bad my situation was. My guardian is the son of my enemy, and I may get killed from his father. I must be the most unlucky person that has ever existed. Never in my life have I ever met someone who had worse problems going on in their lives than me. I was snapped out of my trance from having someone touch my fur on the side of my head. Isn't she just a complete beauty? I'm going to have my fun with her. The main leader, or master, spoke with an evil smile. I growled and shifted to human. Don't ever touch me again, I said through clenched teeth. Feisty little thing. The man shot me a lusted gaze, and I pulled a disgusted face and stepped away from me. Where do you think you're going? He snapped and grabbed me from my arm and yanked me close to him, causing me to stumble into his chest. It wasn't that he was ugly or old, because trust me, he was good-looking since his son got his looks, but I just didn't have an attraction towards him since I was marked. I lifted my hands and tried to push the man away, but I was still weak from all that has happened. Stop fighting, he spit and grabbed me roughly. Never, I retort. Mr. Smith, you have a meeting scheduled for right now with Mr. Jones and his partner. A young man stepped out from the crowd. Very well then, I'll speak to you later. He plants a wet kiss on my forehead, which confused me and turned away. I shiver in disgust and look around to see that mostly everyone was wandering away, while others continued to stare. Take a picture, it'll last longer, I growl, and they immediately turned away. Are you usually like this? The manly voice asked. Leave me alone, you traitor, I say coldly. Sooner or later, you're going to have to talk to me, and I suggest that it should be now, he spoke back. You are a traitor to our kind and me. Look, I can explain. What is there to explain? I laugh humorlessly and take a step closer to him. Your dad is a hunter, and you being his only son are forced to follow and help him even though you are a wolf. I had walked the last few steps, so now I was planted directly in front of him and only a few inches away. How do you know that? I'm the daughter of the moon goddess. I know a lot of stuff. Please let me explain further. You don't know the whole story. I am your guardian. I cut him off. My guardian. If you were my guardian, then you wouldn't have hit me in the head like 3 times and brought me here, I said. I know it looks bad, but please give me one chance. That's all I need, please, he begged. Let him explain, Crystal spoke quietly. Why he lied to us and betrayed our kind and us, I retorted with attitude. He is supposed to protect us. It's his job. He has a good reason. She didn't give me time to respond back. Fine, I mumble. Really? Yes, thank you. You won't regret it now. Come with me. He reached out for my hand and I reluctantly grabbed his. He smiled cheekily and I couldn't help but feel a small smile twitch at my lips. Won't you get in trouble for taking me? I ask as he drags me down darkly lit hallways. No, I was actually supposed to escort you to your room, he responded. I nodded my head and followed behind him soundlessly. Here. He pulled out a small key and opened the door before pushing me gently inside and closing the door behind us. I wasn't scared at all, though. I trusted him more now. Explain, I demand, and he motions me over to the bed in which I sit in the center and cross my legs while he sits on the edge. I just want you to know first that I don't want to be here, but I have to, he starts. I nod my head and he continues. It was my dad, mom, and me. I guess you could say that we were the perfect family. Everyone in our neighborhood knew it too. My dad would leave early in the morning to work, and when he came back, he would greet my mom with a kiss and me with a hug. He was the best. I looked up to him so much. My mom was a sweet lady who always gave you hugs and kisses, no matter if you weren't actually hurt. His eyes were glazed as if he was remembering. She loved my father with all her heart, and I thought my father did too. That was until what he did that crushed my mom. She was a housewife, so she didn't work, and she usually made my father food to eat at his job. But for some reason, that day she decided to go visit him at his so-called work. She thought he worked as a businessman, seeing as how he left the house in a suit every day. I remember asking her if I could join her. She had no choice but to bring me along, seeing as how I was barely 5. When she pulled up to the building and entered, I knew something was wrong. The woman behind the desk was dressed as a slut, and she looked scared. I remember when my mom was completely oblivious and asked to see my father. The woman's face paled at his name and told us where he would be at. Something my mom didn't see, though, was the look the woman shot me as we rounded the corner. It was a look full of fear, but not fear for her, but for me. She was scared for me, and at the time I didn't know, he sighed a shaky breath. My mom took us to the room my father was supposedly at, and what I saw is something I could never forget. A tear rolled from the corner of his eye, and I stared at the single drop as it slid past down his chin and fall off. I grabbed hold of his hand in comfort and rubbed his back with my other one. There was a bruised woman on a bed, and she was chained. Her wrists were bloodied and bruised in a purple color. She was stripped bare. From her features, I could tell she was beautiful. Her hair was probably once long and shining in a gold color, but all I saw was knotted blonde hair with blood stains. She was skinny, but not fat, and she had a tan complexion. Something I could never forget was her face, though. Her wide and full of fear hazel eyes were full of terror and tears. Her lips were swollen and bleeding. I could feel my mom tense as she watched her only love abuse sexually of a woman. My mom was devastated. She didn't move. One moment she was still, and the next she grabbed me and swung me over her hip and started to dash out the place. We both heard yells of my father from behind us, but my mom didn't slow down. She ran faster. We were almost to the door when she got pulled back, and I fell to the floor. My dad had an angry look on his face that could only be described animalistic. With no second thought, he pulled out a gun from his pants and shot my mom through the forehead. Another silent tear escaped his eye. He hadn't blinked at all. It was like he didn't care she was dead or not. Her lifeless body fell in front of me, and he yanked me off the ground and took me to a different two. From then on, he started to say that my mom was a werewolf and how they are evil, and I was one. Instead of killing me, though, he forced me to help him with his hunter idea. At first, I thought he was stupid, but as I saw many other hunters start to join us and become a pack, I knew something was going to happen.